It's a beautiful day here in Southern California, and it's a beautiful day anytime that I get Brian White on the show. Brian and I were just musing over a three-star review that we received on the book right up there, AI Rising, where the guy proceeded to compliment every single one of us at least once, and then said,
But
but,
yeah,
don't you hate that? But, yeah.
the review was great. It said, and really the review was great. It said 3 stars. The book is too redundant. Uh, Randy's a great writer. Brian White is funny. That's a given. Brian Wang is insightful. The book is too redundant. Wait, you said that twice. I love it. I love it. We're having fun. And honestly, it was still a good review. What the review said was, I love all of you individually. Collectively, you're weaker than the sum of your parts. And that, yeah. So I don't know. I had a great time being involved in the book.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Okay, let's take a look at what our topic for the day is. And it's a big one. It's a huge one. It's a very important one. And it's from the limiting factor. It's something that I talk about all the time. But it's kind of gets, I don't know, shunted aside.
Mm.
So Jordan 𝐓𝐿𝐲, of course, is famous for all of his work on the batteries. And he just did a video. He does lots of, well, I guess what, maybe two or three a month.
Mm-hmm.
He does these very, very detailed videos. And he wanted to talk about the status of the 4680 right now. And the title was top, no, this was Grok's analysis. So anyway, the uh, the question that Grok wanted to know is, will it be dry coated? So what was your thought with Gordon's thought about the dry coating?
Jordan. So
Sure.
first of all, a little bit about Jordan 𝐓𝐿𝐲 from the Limiting Factor. He takes this work very seriously. When I had a chance to hear a presentation by Jen County from Tesla, she's a service center employee now, living in the Northwest. But before that, she was at Cato Road working on the batteries. And she was authorized to give us a presentation about 4680s, but be advised that the Q&A may be a little bit limited. And so when we got to the Q&A, a lot of her answers were, I can't talk about that, but go watch The Limiting Factor with Jordan 𝐓𝐿𝐲
Terrific. Okay.
because he's very dialed in and sufficiently dialed in that I'm confident he has an inside source. And I said, Jen, he doesn't. He reads the white papers, he does the research, he takes the batteries to labs in San Diego for dissection. I know because I've delivered one of them. And she's like, no, he must have a source. And I told Jordan that, and he was flattered. He's like, oh my gosh, I'm on the right track because he does not have a source inside the battery
Right.
factory.
Right.
So it was pretty fascinating to see. And of course, I had some very clever, sneaky back around questions like not Tesla specifically, but everyone's tried to make a 4680 and all of them are behind schedule. Is there something tricky about the shape? Brian, I'm not going to answer that. Ah, come on. How come I'm famous in this room? Okay. So the first question was about the dry coating.
Yes.
We don't know. I don't know. Jordan may have insights that I don't. Um, if the dry process is solved, that means we can ramp. If the dry process is unsolvable, it means let's move around it and we can ramp. Either way is fine. The real problem we've had so far is trying to perfect that process. It would be great if they could. As you know, they've been bringing in cathodes from far and wide, but they have their own cathode building. They have their own cathode division. They have their own team that's been working on it. And it would be unreasonable to assume that they're not making progress. So that would be one limiting factor that you can remove. Don't remove Jordan, just the step that's limiting the process.
So Elon, of course, specifically said that if he had it to do over again, he wouldn't try to do the
Mm.
dry,
Cathode,
dry coated
dry
cathode.
electrode.
Yes, it's hard for me to say, but it sounded to me like he was suggesting that they were about ready to begin full production of it.
It sounded like it at the shareholder meeting. Uh, that doesn't seem like the sort of thing that he would be prone to exaggerate about.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. So second question is confidence in the 4680 supply chain. So while Tesla is fully committed to producing 4680s, and it doesn't seem to be any question they're going to do that. And in fact, Elon said that it's going to be used for Optimus, it's going to be used for Cybercab, and it's going to be used for Semi.
Semi came as a surprise to me.
Me as well. But there's also maybe LG, Kim, and Panasonic that are going to be making 4680s. I'm not sure about CATL, but CATL would certainly be a problem because of the tariffs. But what do you think about this question?
Well, you hit on a bunch of perfect stuff there. So if you're going to put 4680s in the Semi, you don't need high drain, fast drain kind of stuff. The Panasonic cell we know is not a tabless design. The tabless means that you can move electrons in and out quicker. But with the Panasonic design, as I recall, it's a 3-tab or a 5-tab design. You can still move the electrons in and out, just not as quickly. With a Semi, you're talking about like an 800 kilowatt hour pack. You don't need to move them in and out as quickly. That would work for that. We know that Panasonic's been working on getting their 4680 production in the US ramped. It's behind schedule, but it has been over a year since they were supposed to be done. It's probably coming online about the right time. The fact that, so Tesla Semi has always used 2170s, in part because the Semi is form factor agnostic. It's not like we're making structural packs that need to be a certain way. You can just put anything in there. 2170s are right next door at Giga Nevada. Let's use those. If they're going to have enough 4680s to make Cybertruck and Cybercab and Optimus and Semi, that tells me they've got some things sorted out. And it could be that the Panasonic or LG ones are maybe not as good in terms of performance specs. They're going to be just as good in terms of longevity, in terms of cycle life and over the course of a single drive performance. But they might not be as ideal for, say, a Cyber Beast where you need all your juice right now, or even Optimus where there may be moments of intense strain where the load is very high. And to your point about CATL, they are not building a domestic factory at this time, so there would be a concern with tariffs. Tariffs will be very high on those parts. If CATL can make them 40% cheaper than the US supply, they're still going to wind up being more expensive at the consumer level.
So Tesla had also said that once they got the 2 lines going in Texas, that they would set up to do 5 lines in Reno. So if they do 5 lines in Reno, that would certainly be a quick way to getting semi-trucks taken care of.
Yes. And as you pointed out before, semi-truck isn't going to be a dump of new supply of new product. It's going to ramp. So we may see the battery supply ramping, as you said, at the same time as the vehicle supply, because we're not expecting a full ramp in Q1 or 2 or even 4 of 26. We're expecting to see close to the full run rate, hopefully by the end of 26. But you get there slowly. Same with Cybercab. We're expecting to see them in Q2, but they'll be ramping slowly. They could, at the rate of ramp that I expect through 2026, they could likely handle them on the existing supply that was earmarked for Cybertruck. Because Cybertruck is not selling in the volume it was expected. If that factory really could handle 250,000 Cybertrucks worth of batteries, think of the size of that battery. It's at least twice the size, probably 3 times the size of what goes into a Cybercab. That means you could make 750,000 Cybercabs on just what they had anticipated for the battery supply for Cybertruck.
Okay, somehow I think we're answering some of my questions in advance here. The Cybercab's production ramp lines perfectly. That's kind of what you just said. Number 5, the backup supplier strategies. We just talked about that.
Well, yes, but let's talk about that
Okay.
some more, because
All right.
it's not just the cells.
Okay.
It's also the cathodes, the electrodes, the lithium. We haven't talked about the lithium.
Right.
Well, they've got a lithium refinery coming online right now in Corpus Christi. It's not a huge amount of output, but once they have completed it, dialed it in, they know they've got the perfect process, or as perfect gets in Tesla's ever-changing production method strategy. They will double it. There's a whole spot next to the existing one where a second one is expected to go. So they are only building out half the capacity at the initial launch. That would double it. That would take a year or two to bring online. But if they perfect it in the next month or two, that means they could have the second half of it running by the end of next year. That coincides with the ramp. But lithium has proven not to be as hard to get as we feared 5 years ago. Some years back, there was a artificial bubble in lithium. There was a speculative bubble. And the problem with those speculative bubbles is if the demand doesn't surface to actually use it, somebody gets stuck with futures that are set too high and customers who just won't pay that. If that's the price, I'm not making the product. And that's where they ended up. The bubble burst. That's when we saw a lot of research on sodium batteries, because if lithium's going to be all the way up here, sodium's not going to have that problem. Sodium would be a lot harder to corner and speculate the market the way they did. And then, of course, we saw sodium research slow down. It didn't stop. It's still going well. We're finally seeing those cells that we expected 2-3 years ago. The urgency was just taken off. So on lithium, I do not expect to see a bottleneck domestically. And another reason for that is a lot of car companies were building huge factories. They all figured that they had enough minerals for it, and a lot of them have canceled or at least scaled back their battery supply ambition, which means those batteries could be available for that, for not just the batteries, but the minerals that were going to go into those batteries. The lithium that was going to be used in Michigan can now be used in Reno. And all of that helps.
So then we also have the LFP production. And so we've been waiting for the LFP to get going in Reno. Maybe it's going. We just haven't, I haven't heard. But we also, this is another issue that we've been talking about for a long time, whether the LFP is going to be used in certain circumstances. We've just, again, Elon has just told us that at least in those three products, it will be lithium. What are you thinking about the LFP side?
So the LFP site is designated as for stationary storage. And people have said, well, yes, but that doesn't mean they can't put it in cars. Yes, it does. Yes, it does, because they're not built to the same specifications. They're not built to handle a million miles of vibration. So it's bad enough we're putting them near the San Andreas Fault. They're going to get jiggled enough. But for stationary and automotive use, very different. And you've seen it, I'm sure, when something needs to be marine grade or automotive grade. So the LFP cells coming out of Reno, and the factory is running. We do not know at what pace, at what, how close to capacity it is. And we're not going to know, because those cells are shipped over to Lathrop for use in megapacks, invisibly, more or less. The trucks run all day, all night, back and forth between the two adjacent Reno sites and the Northern California sites. And we just don't have enough spotters out there to see where they're going and when.
Another issue that was brought up in the video is that LG Chem has got some 2170 enhancements. They have upgrades to the 2170 cells, including a 6% energy boost through higher voltage tolerance. What about that?
Well, that's great. This is when I see miracle battery announcements, folks should know that I take them with a grain of salt or lithium, whatever it is, depending on the. Anyway, when it comes to announcements from LG, Panasonic, BYD, any of the top really 10 players, I give the announcements a lot more value. I believe them, because these companies do not make miracle announcements. They make believable announcements like 6% greater energy density or whatever that was. 6% improvement doesn't surprise me. It delights me. Because imagine if tomorrow you bought a car that has the same curb weight, but has 6% more range. I mean, that's an extra 20 miles of range that you didn't bargain for. Maybe you'll never need it. Maybe you'll never use it. Or they could make the car have 6% fewer batteries to get you the same range, but with less weight. The battery's very heavy. I mean, if we're talking 1,000 pounds, that's a 60-pound lighter car. That's substantial. They will pay you as an engineer to get rid of grams from a vehicle. And here you're dropping 60 pounds in one go. That's huge. And it's extremely unlikely that that new battery costs significantly more than the old one. With the cost curve we've seen, it probably costs less than a much less effective battery from even 2 or 3 years ago.
And then we also are hearing about, on that same video, about Panasonic having some innovations, thinner cans, carbon nanotubes. They're targeting about 300 watts, no,
Watt
WH.
hours per kilogram.
Watt hours per kilo. I've never seen that symbolized that way before. Okay, watt hours per kilogram density and a 5 to 10% range increase.
Yeah. The thinner can walls just make sense. You overbuild in the beginning, you find out what you need, and you scale back to what you can get away with. What's the old saying? Any idiot can build a bridge, but it takes can build a bridge that doesn't fall down. It takes an engineer to build a bridge that just barely doesn't fall down. Look at those old Roman bridges. They're still standing. Yeah, because they're overbuilt. Oh my gosh, they're designed to last a lifetime versus the ones we see now, which are much lighter, much thinner, much. Well, we should build them like they used to. No, because you'd only get 3 instead of 1,000 bridges. I need 1,000 bridges. So Panasonic, if you've ever seen, I don't think you've seen a 4680 in person. Oh, but the 4680 can was famously very heavy. They've already thinned that down. The 2170, I don't think I've ever played with a 2170 personally, but it would make sense to me that the can could be thinned. And that's an easy way to save weight. I remember in the 80s, Pepsi cans went from being quite thick and heavy to being suddenly quite thin. And maybe that was regional, but the amount of metal they saved had to be astronomical.
Right.
And changing the chemistry inside the battery, that's just something they're doing all the time.
Number 10, and finally, before I ask you the bonus question,
Ooh.
strategic 4680 advantages. Overall, the 4680 initiative is pivotal for Tesla's long-term goals in cost reductions, performance gains, and mitigating geopolitical risks in the battery supply chain. They just announced that they're attempting in California and Texas to use 100% domestic product. So getting this finished so that the battery, which is a big part of what they were having to import, is 100% here would be critical to that goal.
I would love to know where you're going to find cobalt in the US that's ready to go. I don't even know if we have nickel, but
But we have nickel because that's what Elon was hoping to mine. I think just past the Reno factory out in the desert, he bought a big
but is
plot.
it ready to go?
No, I don't know
No,
about that. Yeah.
no. So, but those are lesser ingredients. In terms of so why 4680 in the first place? Why dry cathode in the first place? You've got some limits. That's the whole topic here is limiting factor with and without Jordan 𝐓𝐮𝐞𝐬𝐝 in addition to. Why would you want a larger can when the smaller ones work just as well? Because there's a limit to how many individual cans you can push out the door.
Mm-hmm.
And if the one that goes out the door has 2, 3, 4 times the capacity of a smaller one, that means you don't need as many of them. It means you've got 1,000 cells in a semi, for example, instead of 3,000, 4,000 cells. Right. Fewer points of failure, less welding robot time needed. But really what it does is it shortens the line It negates the need for additional lines as quickly. And the whole thing with the dry cathode is, if you want to speed up the line, uh, if you've got a drying process, that oven is how long?
Very
100
long.
feet?
Yeah.
Well, let's say it's 100 feet. If it's running slow enough, 100 feet is great. If you want to double the line speed, you need to double the length of the kiln. Well, we want it to go even faster than that. Okay, so now the kiln is in the next county. Well, and of course, it would be a zigzag, but that creates issues too. Can you zigzag while it's curing, or does that jostle molecules into the wrong place? It can. So having the dry process shortens the line. Having the larger form factor um, doesn't shorten the line, but reduces the need for the line to move as quickly. All of this is a first principles approach. They go all the way back to the beginning and say, if these didn't exist, how would we build them differently? How would we build them today? I've tried to ask train engineers, locomotive engineers, if you're starting on a brand new planet, what's the perfect locomotive? What's the right gauge of track? And being more traditional folks, they've all said, we're not on a different planet. Okay, well, thanks for your time. I appreciate that. But on Mars, there will at some point be trains. The gravity is different. What's the right gauge of track? What's the right form factor? All remains to be seen. So I don't know. On the batteries, this is the right approach. Was there any part of the question that I didn't get to?
No, I think you're good. Now I'm going to ask you the bonus question, which
Oh boy, is it about
because
AI Rising by Randy Kirk and
it is
Brian
kind
Wang
of,
with special guests?
it's sort of about AI rising, but yet it's not because of AI rising. Everybody, every headline, I don't care who they are right now, including the stock market, is all concerned about the chip bubble.
Mm.
So I wrote a story this morning saying I don't think there's a bubble, but there will be someday. That was my conclusion. If people want to see what I had to say about that, they can go check out this morning's video. What do you think about the chip bubble?
Well, give me their premise. Are they saying that in 6 months, half the AI firms are going to fold and there's going to be too many chips?
I think the premise might be more like in 2 to 3 years, NVIDIA will not be able to get the margins that they're getting now. In 2 to 3 years, they will not be able to grow 60% a quarter. Therefore, we're not going to give them these kind of we're not going to give them the same multiple we've been giving them because their business will eventually drop in margin as well as increase sales, as opposed to, say, the Tesla narrative, which is they're just about to burst forth with better margins and better sales.
Okay, so let's look at some previous bubbles. Housing, when it fell apart, what happened was there just weren't buyers for these properties. Well, there were, just not at those prices. When the prices came down enough, real estate investment trusts and speculators and fund managers, and even companies like not Berkshire Hathaway is so much, but some of the other big
BlackRock,
conglomerates,
BlackRock.
BlackRock came in and just bought them up. There is a price at which everything sells. Let's say it's 6 months from now, the AI bubble bursts, 2/3 of these companies go out of business. There's still a market for those products. And I don't mean at 70% off, I mean at 20% off. You think XAI isn't going to jump at the opportunity to get the compute they were thinking would take a year to instead get it in a few months? Heck, they might just take over some of those data centers. Google would swoop in and say, perfect, this is exactly what I needed. And at this price, it makes sense. So unlike real estate, which is a very fixed kind of world, let's go back to the dot-com bubble, where a lot of the market that they were selling us wasn't real. It was companies trading favors with each other, moving the money in circles, saying, I will license you my vaporware in exchange for you advertising on my system. And it's money changing hands, but it was never real money. And it all falls apart once you take one single piece out of the machine. These machines that are running today are doing useful stuff. Some of it more useful than others, some of it more easily monetized than others, but they are all generating revenue, real revenue, not from each other so much, though I'm sure there's plenty of that, but from customers who find value in it. So if tomorrow half these companies go out of business, the compute is still needed. Would that compress the margins of NVIDIA? Maybe, but NVIDIA doesn't need those margins to survive. They are already extremely profitable, and they would remain profitable. The value of their new chips would not dip below their cost of goods sold. They would still have the money there. And what I think would happen if that wave crested today is we would see a second wave right behind it of all these other ventures that said, well, we were going to get into it, but we couldn't afford to. Now we can afford to. We've got a better idea that runs cheaper and more efficiently. And now there's room for us. So the idea that AI will not work has already been debunked. We're past that. AI is today the worst it's ever going to be. It will only get better. And to those who say, well, I don't understand any applications for it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you understand it or not. If you choose to, you know what, I'm going to go live in Alaska and not even have internet, it's still going to affect you. Your supply chain will become more efficient to get goods to you in the middle of nowhere because of it. The way the products are manufactured will get cheaper to get them to you more efficiently. It's all happening with or without us. That's the beauty of science, is you don't have to believe in it for it to be real. And that's where I think we're at with AI.
So because it's my show and I get to do whatever I want to, I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole because I thought of this morning. I was thinking about Teledoc, and I thought, why doesn't Teledoc move to the AI side of the road? I mean, they could still have the tele part of the Teledoc, but why wouldn't they? I know what I do. I just got some blood results back from a blood draw the other day, and I had two of them that were unusual. So I went on Grok and I said, "Hey, this is unusual. What does that mean? What should I do about it? What should I ask the doctor?" Grok gives me a complete list. I send over a note to the doctor. Well, what if there was a specific, and I think they're working on this, but a medical channel, if you will, a medical LLM, a medical model. And the medical model, though, would be like super good at asking questions. So you go in and you say, "This is the symptom I have. This is how I'm feeling." Then it asks questions. You go back and forth. And at a certain point, the model says, "Oh, we need to send this to a physician." And now we get the physician on Zoom. This would reduce costs. It would give confidence to the patient. It would probably increase our ability to get the right answers. So this is the kind of thing, I could be right or wrong, and you can let me know what you think, but that's the kind of thing I see happening.
Well, Randy, I don't want no robots taking away my good medical jobs. Right. You know, we have a doctor shortage, right?
Yeah.
We have a nurse shortage.
Yes.
We have an everything shortage in healthcare. We've got the boomers have aged into a position where medical needs are more common, and Gen X is coming up quick. We are also starting to need more of that. What I can see happening, and when Elon was saying, "Oh, it could be the best doctor ever," I saw a lot of people say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, that's too soon." And I say, "Yeah, it is too soon. That's you're missing the point." What Grok could do today, and without a body, and then of course in Optimus shortly could do, is triage. If you say to Grok, "I am here. I've got a light chest rattle," and Grok puts the O2 sensor on your finger, and you're at 94, you are low priority. We know you're stable. Let's get to the next guy. Yeah, but a human could do that, right? But we don't have enough humans in healthcare. And once Grok has mastered triage, then you move him up to the next step. Can Grok do the blood draw? Or, Optimus with Grok,
Yeah.
or just a robot AI at all? Can they do the blood draw? Sure, why not? And they're not going to catch any human infections. It's a lot easier to disinfect a robot than a piece of meat. There's no L&I. There's no, the costs are very different. The concerns are different. The hours are different. They can run 22, 23, 24 hours a day. A lot of the work they do, they could do while charging. So uh, it would open up a possibility to make things much cheaper. Now, if it weren't for Tesla making robots, if it was Philips making the robot, that robot would cost $1 million because, well, it's medical. It's a medical grade robot. You're replacing, it's worth $1 million, and it is worth $1 million.
Yeah.
And they would charge that, but there's going to be too much competition. Tesla won't charge $1 million, in part because it's not how they operate, but in part because there's going to be competition. So all of those things can help. There's a lot of jobs in medical, like certified nursing assistant, CNAs. No, which is the one? Anyway, I'm trying to remember, but I've got a little bit of a fog in my head from the cold that I'm fighting. But the people who do the cleaning up
Oh,
of, no one wants to do pericare. That is the worst job. Robots don't care. They don't care. It's just any other task. They don't get offended by this elderly person's casual racism. They don't get offended by the unwarranted physical advances that Pawpaw might think is clever or cute. It doesn't work that way. They're just going to do a job and be done with it. No hurt feelings, no resentment, and ideally, vastly, vastly lower cost. Who's fighting this, man?
yeah.
Who in their right mind is fighting this?
Yes, it's 100%. All right. So buy the book, buy the book, buy the book. Brian, any last thoughts?
I have no thoughts, Randy. You have stolen all of them.
All of them and every one. Well, thank you, Brian, as always. And to all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.